Good morning, friends. Today, this is the second part of English novel BA Part 3 Special English for semester 5th, paper number 10. This is the second part of Rise and Development of the novel. Before this, we learn about what is the definition of novel, how, why, and when it is emerged in 18th century, and how the theories are presented for development of the novel is also going to be discussed in this particular part. See, then this is the second part, so you must remember, and if you think that uh, it is the part where you are going to learn something, reread the previous part of the audio lecture which held on 30th July. See, here I had taken the introduction, the screenshot from one article on internet. It is possible to say that the novel as a literary genre emerged in the beginning of the 18th century. The Industrial Revolution, can be said, paved the way to the rise of the middle class, and it also created a demand for people's desire for reading subjects related to their everyday experiences. The novel, therefore, developed as a piece of prose fiction that presented characters in real life events and situations. Daniel Defoe's Robinson Crusoe and Henry Fielding's Tom Jones are some of early English novels. The novel is realistic prose fiction in such a way that it can demonstrate its relation to real life. So, in this introduction, we can understand how the Industrial Revolution is the major reason for the rise and development of the novel. The middle class emerged because of the Industrial Revolution, technological advances, and so the everyday experiences are presented in those English novels. So, middle class, for the reading of middle class, the form novel is emerged. Next part, AntiNovel Campaign. Why it is called anti-campaign novel? Attacks on the new genre, that is identified with French Romance, Derrida as a sensationalistic import and considered antithetical to English values. What is the campaign outcome? That is selective legitimate of novels that displayed non-romantic features, and the novel as a genre developed and was valued according to these features. See, why the selective legitimate of novels that displayed non-romantic features? Non-romantic features means it is not imaginative one. It is not only the goody-goody presentation of the world. It is a realistic presentation of middle class people and their actual situations, actual experiences in life. So again it is attacks on identified with French romance. French romance is a concept where you learn all those things are very imaginative, fantastic, which are related to only very good life. There is no struggling in their life. There is not any kind of anti struggling things. There is only the very beautiful things in their life, or they are presented in their literature in French romance. So it is derived as a sensationalistic import, so considered antithetical to English values. Next part, Features. What are the features of the rise of the novel? That is, realism and drama of individual consciousness has precedence over external drama. Focus on experience of the individual as subject matter. See, whatever the subject matter presented in the realistic novel, in the beginning of the novel form, there is a focus is on the individual experiences. Whatever the life, as we have seen, is presented in the novels. Next is exploration of individual consciousness and perception. See, here individual consciousness and perception, whatever the middle class people seen in the society, is explored throughout the novels. Next, the form emerged in the 18th century, that is realism. The concept of realism, synonymous with veracity, denial of fictionality. What is the meaning of veracity? Whatever we had seen through our eyes and whatever happened in front of our eyes, which is shown in the realistic fictions. So, denial of fictionality, denial of imaginative thinking, denial of imaginative presentation in the previous parts of the dramas and the French romances. Particularity of description. If you learn, or we can take example of Robinson Crusoe, how his adventurous life is shown in the particular novel. Next, photographic attention to detail, verisimilitude. It means photographic representation. When we read the novel, it is experienced by us, that is, it is presented in front of us like a photography. One by one descriptions are given in that particular novels. Pages and pages are only the descriptions where it is presented as it is. Next, rejection of fabulous imaginings and idealism of romance. What is the metaphysical world is not accepted in it, or idealized world of romances is not accepted in realism. It is the rejection of fabulous things, imaginative things, and it is only the representation of the reality. See, what is the subject matter? Significant choices in subject matter. Appearance of probability in character, setting, and event. See, characters are from real life situations. Setting is from the cities or any villages and events, whatever happened in our life. Logical cause and effect sequencing. There is a logical sequence. Whatever happened in our life is in the same manner it is presented. Logical cause, we can believe on it, and effect sequencing. Solidity of detail in order to achieve the reader's willing suspension of disbelief. So, what kind of solidity of detail is presented? Because to achieve the reader's willing suspension of disbelief, and a reader can believe on that kind of writing, that is setting, characters are real life characters, and focus on middle class protagonist. Middle class protagonist, it means from the middle class family there is a protagonist is presented in that particular novel. So next part, when we see the particular pictures of the novels, pages of the front pages of the novels, title pages of the novels, we can understand how it is the focus on middle class protagonist. See, who are the representatives, who are the pioneers of a realistic novel and the beginning of the novel. Daniel Defoe, who's Robinson Crusoe, who is representative of the middle class people. Here is another example, Samuel Richardson's Pamela. Other examples, Jonathan Swift's Gulliver Travels, and Stern and other writers. See the next, that is Robinson Crusoe's Daniel Defoe, Richardson's Moll Flanders, Tristram Shandy, Gulliver's Travels, Tom Jones, and Samuel Richardson's Pamela, and Henry Fielding's Moll. This is the novel Moll Flanders, which is also known as the first English novel. Next is, what are the theories presented in the rise of the novel at the beginning of the novel? Ian Watt, formal realism. Philosophical background, Descartes and Locke. Individual apprehension of reality. Individualistic, innovating reorientation. See, Descartes and Locke presented, that is, individual reality is the most important part. Individualism, innovating reorientation is presented in the formal realism by Ian Watt. Rejection of traditional plots. There is not the plot like a fantasy stories like stories of Cinderella. Self-consciousness about innovation and novelty. See, what is the self-consciousness and innovation and novelty? It means, if you see the example of Robinson Crusoe or Pamela, where the characters are from middle class. If you think about Pamela, who is a lower middle class servant, maid servant, and her life is presented in the rich family with the rich family. So it is self-consciousness and about innovation and novelty. Those writers of the novel of realism who are very self-conscious and innovative, particularity, they are very particular about the characters, detailed presentation of environment, individualization. Characters, detailed presentation of environment. There is a detailed presentation of environment from where the characters are came. Specificity in setting. There is a specific places presented with the time also. Correlation of time. There is a correlation of time means there is a correlation with the particular century, 18th century. So it is called specificity in setting. Formal realism as convention. Air of total authenticity. Confusion between fact and fiction. Most of the time there is a formal realism in it. There is confusion between fact and fiction. But formal realism presents as convention and try to present the actual life of the middle class people. Next is Machian, progressive narrative. He said about the progressive narrative, that is categorical instability about how to tell the truth led to rise of the novel. It led categorical instability about how to tell the truth. The novelist has a question how to tell the truth, and it emerged the novel from form. So there is a representation of progressive narrative. Instability of social categories, how the external social order is related to the internal moral state of its members. Again, the external social order is related to the internal moral state of its members. The characters are presented from the social categories, so there is a internal moral state of its members. What kind of authority is required of narrative to permit it to signify truth to its readers? What kind of social existence or behavior signifies an individual's virtue to others? Novel can be understood as a cultural instrument designed to confront intellectual and social crises. So, progressive narrative presents how truth to its readers, and that's why the progressive narrative is emerged in the novel form. So, novel can be understood as a cultural instrument. Cultural instrument means representation of culture of that particular society. Next is Hunter. Before novels, he presented what happened before novels. In it, he said, contemporaneity. Novels are stories of now or about events in a relevant past. The presentation of the novels is in a relevant past which are related to the middle class people. Believability, credibility, and probability are essential qualities. So, its credibility and probability is most important part or qualities for to believe on these novelists and these kind of writings of the novels. Familiarity. Familiarity means novels portray everyday existence and common people. If you see realistic novels like Robinson Crusoe, his adventures shows us this is the everyday reality. Next part, again, Hunter's before novels he presented individualism, subjectivity. Novels show an intensified consciousness of selfhood. Object of identification. Readers of novels identify or emphasize with the heroes and heroines of novels. So, identification is the most important part. How the middle class people relate each other with that particular characters. They seem that they are uh, the same character in the novel. So, it is object of identification. Coherence and unity of design. Novels have guiding design and inclusivity, digressiveness, fragmentation. There is also a fragmentation of the events, but there is a relation of it with the middle class people. Thank you. Here we add about the what are the characteristics features of the particular rise of the novel and how it is emerged in the 18th century because of the industrial revolution and because of the emergence of the middle class people. So here we end. In the third part we will learn the next part of it.